Hey, so I'm back here checking out the budget smartphones, the ones you get from China with the dual camera setups, the Octa-cores, the MediaTek ones that I haven't looked at for quite some time. And the reason why is I kind of got sick of them because they were all just exactly the same and even just rebranding the same one. So this here is the Doogee or Doogee, how we want to pronounce that, Mix 2. And it has a 2:1 aspect ratio screen, one of the first ones to have this kind of screen on here. So very similar look to what you'd get from a premium flagship, something like the Samsung Galaxy S8 or the 18:9 aspect ratio, if you will, if you want to call it that too. So is this phone any good? Now there's been a lot of reviews out there with those, thumbnails going, wow, it's amazing, holy shit, they're holding the phone up to the camera. Don't be fooled by all of that. Now I'm going to have an honest look at this phone and just get behind the truth of this, because I feel there's a lot of hype and crap that's going on behind the scenes here. A lot of the YouTubers that have been posting the reviews of these kind of mobile phones, you'll find that they are full-time YouTubers and they need to make money, of course, survive, and I do understand that. They want you to buy the phone with their affiliate link. Now, me personally, yeah, that would be nice if you did buy the phone, but if it's a piece of crap, then I would not recommend it. And this phone, I'm not going to outright say it's a piece of crap, but it does have a lot of cons and a few pros on there, which I will cover in this particular review here. So this is what we get in the box here. You get a SIM tool, a EU charger. Now this one's 5 volts, 2 amps, and that actually translates into slow charging. That's just a standard spec. It's not pump express, which would be 12 volts. As a result, the phone takes over 3.5 hours to fully charge, which is quite disappointing. We get an adapter here for Type-C to 3.5mm for your headphones, because of course the phone does not have one. It's following that horrible trend. We've got Type-C to micro USB 2 adapter, a Type-C cable. We get this hard case as well that's in the box. It has a smooth matte black finish to it. It's not bad, the case. And then an instruction manual in various different European languages. Now when we take a look at the rear of it, we've got a fingerprint reader that's not particularly good. It only works about 7 out of 10 times. And to the guy in the comments that's saying, hey, you have to scan your finger more than just once, I scanned the same finger 3 times and it still doesn't perform well. Now we have a dummy camera at the top here. This camera does not actually work. If you cover it and you go through the different settings, it doesn't show up as being blocked or blurred because only this camera works right here. So that is very disappointing, and Doogee are faking the dual camera setup here. So the rear has glass on it, 2.5D curved edges. I don't believe it is scratch resistant glass, however. So there are 2 front-facing cameras along the front here, and unlike the rear, these actually are real cameras, both of them. Now one's a wide-angled lens, which is this one here, and then a standard kind of lens there. Both of the sensors are 8 megapixels. We have our earpiece, and the ambient and proximity sensors are located right there in between both of those front-facing cameras. Now it weighs 222 grams, which is quite hefty for a mobile phone, and is 9.46 millimeters thick at the thickest point here, where the camera protrudes by about a millimeter or so. So without the camera bump, then it's 8.9 millimeters. The screen does come with a pre-applied screen protector as well, like the rear of it. Now I don't believe it is scratch resistant, I don't think it's Gorilla Glass, and you can't really believe or trust what Doogee say if it is. But at least it is a very good screen. I've got nothing but praise for the colors, the brightness, and the contrast you get on this screen. Viewing angles are very decent. Sunlight legibility as well is not too bad, considering it does have that 520 lux output, meaning it's a bright screen. But overall, a great screen considering the price of this mobile. The SIM tray will take either 2 nano SIMs or your micro SD card and a nano SIM. On the bottom we have a Type-C port, loudspeaker, and microphone. You can see the antenna lines either side there. Buttons on the right side, these are made out of metal. They have a good feel to them, and because they have those ridges on them, they're quite easy to press, and they don't rattle at all, which is another positive. So overall, the design and the build of the Mix 2 here is good. It's decent, feels nice in hand. We've got the metal frame around the outside, glass on the rear. So I don't believe it's going to survive drops very well. And because of that 2:1 aspect ratio screen, Using it one-handed is just a little bit harder because, of course, trying to reach to the top for your toggles and things like that is just more difficult with the longer, narrower screen. So the phone comes with no Chinese bloatware, nothing that looks dodgy at all. But we do have a lot of pre-installed Google apps as maybe the only minor complaint there. But the performance of the ROM in general is really quite good. It's very snappy for a MediaTek phone. Their performance, well, I'll get onto some benchmarks in just a second. Multitasking, swapping between your apps is really quite smooth and good. And of course, it is running Android 7, so we can do split screen as well on apps that support it. There's a few apps that don't. This one doesn't, for example. And it's quite handy. Even performance when you are split screening, I found to be reasonably good too. You get roughly 54 gigabytes free, which isn't bad at all. Of course, you can expand on that with a micro SD. And the RAM use normally hovers around about 1 gigabyte, and you get approximately about 4.6 gigabytes free on first boot. Here's the Antutu score, which is not bad for this type of phone. The Helio P25, a similar kind of scores to, well, other ones that I have tested out there. And very good speeds here for the internal storage. Very high here, so it's eMMC 5.1 spec. Another positive of this phone. So the combination of the octa-core, the 6 gigabytes of RAM, and this fast storage is why it is so fast. Now onto battery life. So very decent results here as well. I'm able to get, you can see there, screen on time over 9 hours, which is really good. This was continuous gaming. You can see the history there. So I didn't actually make any cell phone calls during this time here, but the screen was on the whole time. 9 hours, 51 minutes. Now what this translates into in real world use is at least 2 days moderate use. Heavy use is going to make it for at least 1 day. Now GPS, found that it works reasonably well, quite good. Now often the MediaTeks are quite poor, at least the previous generation ones were very bad, but very good around town, good accuracy as well. Here are my wireless speeds, not the greatest here. So connected up to my 5G wireless AC band. Normally a lot of other phones can push around 150 megabits per second or up to 200. You can see here it's a little slower. And then the 4G speeds, decent again. No issues with that, no issues with the signal strength either. Onto audio quality. So we do not have a 3.5mm headphone jack, which is disappointing, but the output from the Type-C port there using the supplied adapter is perfectly fine, good quality from it. There's no hiss or anything like that. We also have FM radio on here. Now the loudspeaker on the bottom is located right here. Give you a sample of it. So as you can hear from that it's not a good speaker really. It does distort at 100% volume. I mean, it's okay. The loudness is alright, but it does sound quite flat. I would have preferred they had maybe used another loudspeaker here on the front and the earpiece like we're seeing from other manufacturers. Now to comment on the call quality, voice calls don't sound particularly good on this model. So what about gaming performance now? Surprisingly good here. We have a Mali T880. And newer titles, like this is Shadow Fighter 3 here, do run well with good frame rates. And because it's a newer title, it also supports the 18:9 aspect ratio and looks okay on the screen. Other games put borders in. But overall, everything that I have tested out, including Hit, World of Tanks, have playable frame rates. So this is a sample from the wide-angle lens front-facing camera. Because you see it's got a bit of a fisheye effect to it, which is normal for a wide-angle lens. Now the video quality, well, it's not really great at all. As you can see, it's quite pixelated. It just doesn't have a very good resolution on the front cameras. But it is good to see them putting that wide-angled lens in there. This is one positive. And now this is the main front-facing camera. So this one here, you can see quality again, not good, quite grainy. So front-facing cameras will probably disappoint, just like the rear camera now, which I'll give you a sample of. So the rear camera is, to be honest, quite horrible when it comes to photos and video, but you can see the focus is constantly having trouble here. So the whole time it's doing that focusing, breathing thing. Really makes video unusable. Now we've only got 1080p as the maximum resolution we can select, so really bad video. I mean, look at that focus. It just constantly keeps doing that. I mean, even when it still keeps focus hunting all over the place. So quite a bad camera, really. Now to quickly run through the modes we have here on the Doogee Mix 2. We've got video, so it's only 1080p max, and as you've seen from that sample I showed you, that the focus hunting just kills the video completely, so very poor quality. Photo can take okay shots, still images in good light. Low light is really quite poor, very bad. Face beauty, typical beautifying mode. Blur is completely useless, so it doesn't use that dual camera. Well, as we know, as I told you at the start of this video, that dual camera doesn't actually work or do anything. I think it's just fake. It's just a decoy that's just in there to make it look like it has dual cameras, and you can see it's got this blur effect that is just completely stupid and useless. It's trying to create like a high aperture effect here, but no, it's just not happening. Mono, that's self-explanatory really, isn't it? Black and white, panorama mode, and Pro. So Pro here, can't really call it Pro mode because you've only got white balance, ISO, and then exposure settings. So overall, do not buy this mobile phone for its camera performance. Alright, so to quickly recap here, in my week using this phone, and to recap what I've covered in the video here quickly, I'll go over the pros first. A lot of people thinking I'm really bashing on these mobile phones, but for the price, you get a very decent screen. Now, of course, it has that 18:9 aspect ratio, or 2:1, whatever you want to call it, which is the latest trend. Now, I'm not too fond of that personally, but you may like that. It gives it a more kind of modern look. Now, the bezels aren't what they claim. Yes, we'll get past that. It's never exactly the same as those press images. They tend to lie about things. Now, when we talk about lying about things, the dual cameras on the rear, that is the biggest con. The focus on the main camera is horrible. It is terrible. It doesn't work a lot of the time. And in video you saw, it was just doing that focus breathing. So it was going in and out the whole time. Destroys video, even though it's only 1080p quality. Now, it can take a decent photo in good light, but in low light, it's terrible. Now, that is to be expected for this price range. Now, the other camera, it's just a dummy camera, I believe, because if you cover it using all the different modes, it never uses it. So if you go into the 2x zoom mode, you think it's swapping over to the other sensor, right? And the other lens. No. Cover it, and it's not being blocked. So that proves that it's just a fake camera. So why are Doogee doing this? I do not know, but it's a very bad move by them to do that. So the front-facing camera, I love the fact they put a wide-angled lens on there so you can fit more people into the shot. That is great. But video quality on those front cameras, if you want to record like video selfies or whatever you call them, aren't great. I mean, that quality is very poor, very grainy. That's not good at all. So we've got 6 GB of RAM, a fast eMMC 5 spec on there, which is good. And the Helio P25 performs well. All the games that I tested, even very demanding graphics, the visual games that are really high-end, ran fine, good frame rates on them. And the ROM performance is a light ROM without hardly any bloatware. So that's another positive there. And the build quality is good. Now, one big con too is the call quality isn't wonderful at all, but the charge time too, so slow. It takes about 4 hours to fully charge this phone. Just under, because it doesn't support MediaTek's Pump Express or any quick charging, which is a real shame there too. So overall, do I recommend this mobile phone? No, not at all. But okay, if you don't mind the cameras and you don't mind having also a very slow fingerprint reader that only works about 7 or 8 times out of 10, then yeah, okay, for the screen, for the performance, for the price, for the battery life, yes, go for it. But as an all-round package, no, I do believe there are a lot of better other phones for similar prices, like Xiaomi's the Mi A1, sorry, or the Redmi series, or even the 5X, I feel a lot better. Then you've got other offerings from Meizu, you've got ones from Huawei, HTC. Check around in the market, there's a lot of other phones that are much better than this one here. So don't believe all that hype you see on YouTube. Most people know that, it's common sense. And thank you so much for watching this review here of the Mix 2 from Doogee.